also for the UFC?
Well, it's a good feeling, because when you work really hard for something, you care about it, and you're passionate about it, it's nice to be rewarded in that sense. And I'm becoming a pioneer for women's mixed martial arts, and I've been fighting since I was 19. I just turned 28, so I've been in this sport. I've been pouring my heart and soul into this sport for a long time, and there was definitely a point in my career where women's mixed martial arts was pretty much entirely disregarded and frowned upon, and nobody wanted anything to do with it or promote it hardly. I mean, it was hard to find fights and matchups and girls even in your weight class, and to see how much it's grown and to know that I had a part to do with that, and was half of the reason why I think that it's in the UFC right now. The fight with Ronda the first time was a game changer. It changed Dana White's mind. It changed the UFC's mind, and completely depicted women's mixed martial arts in an entirely different and new light. So, with that being said, it's a very rewarding feeling, and I'm honored that the UFC would bring me over here, to represent women's mixed martial arts, because I feel like they understand that I have a strong presence, and I think that they chose me specifically to come over here and to fight Rin, and they know that it's important to me to put on a good show always, but with this being such a historical moment, I'm definitely honored that they chose me to represent women's mixed martial arts on the Japan soil.
Let's talk about your last fight. I talked about it earlier in April against Liz Carmouche, and a lot of people were, and even Dana White said that he thought Liz Carmouche won the fight. And have you rewatched the fight? And B, if you rewatched the fight, what did you learn from yourself in that fight to make sure the fight isn't as close as everybody thought it was?
It was a close fight. I'm not going to argue that. I feel like it really depends on how you score the fight. If you score, the riding time, the top position, you could argue and make an argument and say, I think that, Liz spent more time on top. But although I think that was fairly equal. Also, I think it was about halfway through the second round that I turned it around and, started doing more top control and damage and everything. But she probably had a little bit more. But I don't feel like she ever really wanted to engage in an actual fight. I feel like she had a somewhat of a lay and pray game plan, and I don't think that the fans liked that, and I don't think I wasn't prepared for that. I thought it was going to be she was going to bring a hellacious fight. I thought she was going to try to knock me out. I thought she was going to try to do everything that she could to finish the fight, and because I didn't feel that sense of urgency on her part, it kind of led me into a slow start. I kind of feel like I fought on her to her pace, I suppose, and she wasn't really, pushing that. She was kind of hanging on. And then, it kind of dawned on me about halfway through the second round that, this is not going to fly. Obviously I need to do something. I need to change the pace of this fight. I need to get gritty and dig deep and do that. And, the lesson that I learned was that you can't wait till halfway through the fight to do that. That I should have been, hell on wheels from the first round, and I should have forced her out of her comfort zone, and I should have, made the action happen rather than kind of just going with the flow. And that was the biggest lesson. Typically that's not how I fight. So I think it was just a little bit of an off night for me. It happens. Not every NASCAR race, NASCAR driver wins every NASCAR race. Not every football team wins every game, but you live and you learn, and it's the same with mixed martial arts. I'm grateful that I did get the win that night, and I feel like if you were judging damage, I definitely, or even, cage control, things that are factors in the fight, and the judging, I definitely won that. But I wasn't happy. I wasn't stoked with my performance, and I definitely know that I can, I've proven it before that I can do much better than that and have a much more furious pace. So that was the biggest lesson learned in that fight, and that's what I'm bringing to this fight. This is my first fight since then, so that's what I learned, and that's what I'm going to take with me to the octagon on Saturday is that mental note. I got to push the pace.
We'll get into NASCAR in a moment, as you now have a parallel with NASCAR, but let's talk about your opponent, Rin Nakai, and a lot of people more people know her more for stuff she does outside the cage and outside the ring than she actually does inside the cage. And what do you know about her as a fighter? She's got a couple wins over Sarah D'Adelio and Tara LaRosa, but beyond that, a lot of people really haven't seen her fight and really not face a lot of notable names. How did you, A, when you were presented with this fight, were you like, I don't know this woman, and B, how do you get prepared for someone who's not even ranked in the bantamweight division?
Well, it came out of left field as far as I was concerned. You know, the idea of fighting Rin Nakai was not at all what I thought was going to be next on the horizon for me. You know, I was scouting other girls thinking, oh, it could be this person, it could be that person, it could be this girl, and Rin was the furthest thought. You know, I followed Rin's career for quite some time, but she used to fight at 145, and like I said, you know, she's kind of flown under the radar for a while, so I knew of her, but I didn't know that was going to be a potential candidate. So when they presented me with that, I was kind of like, what? Like, what do you mean Rin Nakai? Is like, she's still, you know, active? She's still, is she fighting at 135? Like, what's going on? You know, so I kind of had to get the whole scoop and everything. Can you hang on for 1 second? I can answer the door real quick.
Absolutely.
Sorry. Oh, awesome. Okay, so as I was saying, with where did I leave off with Rin? Oh yeah, and whether what I thought about when they asked me about that. I was definitely surprised, and at first I was kind of like I didn't understand why they would want me to come over here and fight on a Fight Pass card and fight a relatively unknown fighter to the the mass fan base. But then I started to look at the big picture, and I actually felt pretty honored that they would, want me to come over here and put on, like a historical fight. In Japan, it's the first time that women's mixed martial arts has been put on by the UFC. So it's the first time that the UFC is having a women's fight in Japan, and it's also the first time that that there's going to be a high-profile, highly promoted women's fight. And I'm all about expanding women's mixed martial arts, supporting women's MMA, and I think that they chose me for a reason because they knew that I would come over here and do just that. So that's my goal, and this Saturday I have a job to do, to go out there and beat Rin and put on a great fight. So once I signed on the dotted line, that was it, and she's had my entire focus since then.
A lot of fans and a lot of the media has said it's a lose-lose fight for you. You should dominate her. She's not ranked. You're number 2 in the world. You should just maul her. You should easily win the fight, move on to bigger fights. Do you feel it's a lose-lose situation for you, or do you feel like you said you're focused and every fight is the most important fight?
Well, I definitely don't think it's a lose-lose because anytime you win, that's winning, period. It's another win on my record.
Exactly.
It's another solid, payday. It's a great opportunity for exposure. And like I said, a lot of people don't understand that this is a very, very historical moment for women's mixed martial arts. And, I'm excited to come over here and represent. However, I don't feel that I will gain as much as Rin would if she were to win. I think that would definitely catapult her career and, potentially give her a title shot immediately. Because I'm ranked number 2 in the world, and I've built I built a name and kind of I'm starting to build an empire around myself. So I think a lot of the girls, it's creating a target on my back. And a lot of the girls, they want to fight me. They want what I have. They want to take that from me. And I say, just, bring it. Like, try to take what I've worked so hard for. I've worked really, really hard to be in the position that I'm in, and I'm not going anywhere anytime soon. So I think that, giving Rin Nakai her first defeat, she's 16-0. So to be that one that's, when she has that one blemish on her record, she's 16-1, and everybody can see that I was the first and only person to defeat her, that's huge. And she also has a judo background. She's been doing judo since she was 3 years old, so a very similar style to Ronda. She doesn't obviously have the credentials that Ronda does, but regardless, if I can really put a stamp on this and make it an excellent showing on my part, it's a good argument to Sean Shelby and the matchmakers and Dana and Lorenzo, that I'm headed in the right direction, to get another shot at that strap.
2 final questions, Miesha, and thank you for the time today. And you talked earlier about NASCAR. You signed with Kevin Harvicks' management team, and that's a really big deal because you're only the second MMA fighter to be under that management team, along with Donald Cerrone. And what did it mean? Why the change going from one management company to another management company, and how has the experience been so far?
Why did I switch from one to the other? Was that the part?
Yeah, it was one to the other, and just how has your experience been so far with Kevin's team?
Oh, well, The experience has been unbelievable. I can't put words to it how different it is, because Kevin Harvicks and his management company, they're used to working with Fortune 500 companies, and they're used to working with, huge corporations. We're talking Budweiser and EasyGo and Core 24. Companies that are huge, and MateFit and those kinds of companies. So they're so on the ball. They're so organized. I had my fight gear 3 weeks before my fight. I had my banner. I had everything ready to go, and I'll have a check waiting for me, when I get home Tuesday. So it's just totally different. And I think that the fact that they're still a little bit less familiar with the MMA realm is actually a blessing in disguise. Because like I said, they're used to doing things in the NASCAR world, and things are done ahead of time, things are done promptly, things move quickly, and in the mixed martial arts world and mixed martial arts management companies, really that's unheard of. You get paid a month to 2 months after your fight with your sponsors, typically, sometimes even 3 months, sometimes even longer it takes to get your sponsorship money. You're rushing to get your fight gear usually. It's very normal to get your fight gear literally down to the minute of the deadline, where the UFC is if I don't see what you're wearing right now, this is the cutoff time, and you're gonna be wearing blank fight shorts, and it's just stressful. So I'm so thankful that they would even consider signing me. They only have 2 athletes under their radar, and it's been absolutely phenomenal, and it's definitely one of the smartest career decisions that I've ever made.
Now, I've seen some interviews and articles that you've said if you're victorious after this fight, you want Kat Zingano, if she's victorious over Amanda Nunes coming up at UFC 178. If you don't get the Kat fight, because it looks like he's hearing rumblings, it looks like she could be next for Ronda, and if that is the case, who would you want next? There's a lot of names out there. Got some free agents out there. You got Cyborg, who's with Invicta. Then you also got Holly Holm out there. You got the Gina Carano situation lingering around. If it's not Kat Zingano, who does Miesha Tate want next if victorious on Saturday?
Well, honestly, I never said, I think that got misquoted a little bit because I read some of the articles. I never said that, I want Kat Zingano if she beats Amanda Nunes, because I think if she beats Amanda Nunes, then she deserves a title shot. But I want to fight her at some point, and if she were even to lose, for instance, I would love to be her next opponent. So if, at some point I would like to fight her, but I understand that, if she beats Amanda Nunes, she's earned the right at the title, and I'm not saying that, she has to fight me before she can fight Rousey, that's not how I meant that to come off, but at some point I want a chance to avenge the loss, so even if she were to lose to Nunes, maybe, at that point I could get a fight with her, or, whenever it may be. I would like that, she's a little bit ahead of me on that radar, so anyone ahead of me is going to have a bullseye on their back, and her and Rousey are the 2 girls at this point. So that's, I'm always aiming to go up. I don't know what else to tell you. There's only 2 girls ahead of me, her and Ronda, and I'd like to fight them both again. But, that's just what I'd like. And, it's really up to the UFC. So I'll fight whoever that they put in front of me. But if someone's going to ask me, who do you want to fight? It's I want to fight who's ever going to get me to, move forward. And that's it. Those are the 2 girls. So if not them, then whoever the UFC decides, I really have no preference. I have a feeling I'm going to fight all the girls in the division at one point.
Miesha, thank you for the time today. Obviously, there's a lot more questions, but thank you so much for your time today. The best of luck on Saturday, and we'll talk soon.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks.